It looks like it's just Tracer. Oh. There we go. Now she sat on my shoulder. Actually, I've got a Tracer here. Woo! When to pick Genji and when to pick Tracer. Both are high burst damage mobile flankers. Actually, they're not. Actually, they're quite different to each other. Tracer is relatively high burst damage. She packs a real wallop. She can basically kill a lot of targets in a single clip if you're good enough. She generally takes about 1.5 to 2 clips to do it. But she can kill things very, very quickly. She doesn't need her ultimate to confirm kills. She doesn't even really need that much assistance in terms of DPS output to confirm kills. What she needs is close range, and she needs to not be dying or not trying to avoid large sources of damage. But she's very, very potent on her own. Genji is a little bit less potent on his own. He struggles to deal the same volumes of damage that a Tracer can deal, but Dragon Blade is way, 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 way better than Pulse Bomb, costs more as a result, but when you get it, it's that much more powerful. So Tracer is good for shitting out constant amounts of damage, and really just putting a lot of pressure on people, and then maybe in the occasional big wallop with the Pulse Bomb. Genji is a lot better for sort of poking down targets, cleaning up after fights are starting to finish up, getting occasional sources of burst damage, but it's not reliable burst damage, not like Tracer is. Tracer's more reliable in terms of a DPS output than Genji, and then Genji has the more reliable cleanup as a fight starts to sort of snowball out of control. He really starts taking off then. The big difference in terms of picking between the two is that Genji is a lot better on maps with a lot of verticality, stuff like Watch Point Gibraltar, stuff like Hollywood second point, Dorado second point, especially Dorado second and third point even, probably much better for Genji. Tracer is very good on maps with a lot of flanking paths. Lijiang Tower is just very good in general for Tracer. Ilios is also pretty good for Tracer as well. She has a lot of different pathways she can take, a lot of different angles she can get to, and she's less likely to be in the situation where the enemy team is set up on the high ground and she has to spend 3 weeks getting there through a predictable pathway that the enemy team knows she's coming from, and then she's just going to die. While Genji could just dash up there or just climb a wall and be in a threatening position. That's really the big two differences. Tracer is one of the few characters that never seems to be buffed enough. Do you think she needs any changes? Nope. She's actually climbed back into the pro scene. She doesn't actually... Tracer is meta dependent, like she's very dive dependent, very sort of variable in terms of what's hot and what's not. But now that dive is in, Tracer is in. I think she still has been unchanged since, like, hero-specific changes is unchanged since beta, maybe. She really hasn't seen much change anyway. And she hasn't seen much change because she just has a very effective kit that's very skill-based and doesn't really feel too oppressive. She's difficult to deal with, but she's not impossible to get rid of, and if you were putting enough pressure on her, then her ability to impact the game drops off markedly. Like, she can't deal as much DPS because people are actually shooting the shit out of her and she can't actually do anything. Hopefully, Tracer being over here is just as unnerving as I hope it is. She has the dead eyes. That's what scares me. Anyway, is there a particular comp where Tracer doesn't work well? If you're going up against tank, like a tank heavy lineup, there is a misconception in my mind that Tracer is like good anti-tank. She's not. There are better anti-tanks. Soldier is a better anti-tank because you aren't relying on like building a pulse bomb off the tank while also simultaneously building up all the enemy team's healing, and then using that very same pulse bomb on the tank that you just built off of. Like, it's not a strong way of going about things. You're basically feeding the enemy team support ultimates so you can get a pulse bomb off, and then they just use the support ultimates anyway. So, yeah. Or Tracer. Not so great against the tanks. So if they're running tank heavy, I'd say on defense as well, Tracer is just difficult to make work. Like I said, she doesn't put out outward pressure, she puts out discomfort on their team. She puts pressure on their backline, but not on their front line. And if the front line has no pressure on it, they just smash into you. They win the main team fight while, you know, you're harassing their supports. So they just run over your team because they deal more damage than you do, and you can lose off the back of that. So it kind of feels bad. Or Tracer. If the headshot on the Anadrill was a flavor of ice cream, what would it be? Vanilla. By now it would be vanilla because it's pretty standard and hopefully everyone knows about it. In 2 CP defense, is Sombra a better pick than Tracer? No. I don't like defensive Sombra. I don't think I'll ever like defensive Sombra. Sombra to me is all about seizing the initiative. Like, Sombra is about going in there and you take control of the game and you say, you can't do anything right now. Our team is going to do all these cool things. And if you do that on defense, the enemy team just goes, well, you go and you go, you can't do anything right now. And the enemy team goes, oh, we'll just back up about 5 meters, go behind a corner. Yeah, okay, right, bye. See you in 5 seconds. Oh, and then they come back in and then they kill you all because Sombra doesn't deal any damage. Tracer does. But yeah, I don't like either. Honestly, on defense, I don't think either are optimal. I think you could maybe make them work if you are skilled enough. But if you are skilled enough to do that, you are playing at an MMR where you are clearly higher and you are going to be doing better. So I'm enjoying like puppeteering this Tracer far, far too much. You can remove melee as well. Interesting. I'm glad that that's in. Like, I haven't been keeping track on the arcade too much. Any tips for dealing with Tracer is Zenyatta. His square hitbox seems to be a Tracer magnet. He is a Tracer magnet, and if you are playing Tracer, Zenyatta is one of your, probably is your top priority. He's very easy to kill. Shoot consistently and shoot head height. Just keep firing at head height, so Tracer's going whoop, 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 and you just keep firing at wherever this thing is going to be, this great big noggin. You just keep firing at that head height because you only need to hit twice then, and if you do, she goes down, and then dun 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 dun, and she's over. She's done. Tracer will make your life very, very difficult. Don't be afraid to just throw Discord on her as well. It makes Tracer very uncomfortable. She can't really survive with the Discord on her for very long, so she tends to recall the split second she takes any damage when it's on her to pose the Discord and get rid of the damage. So it's just a good way of like forcing the recall, and then when she doesn't have recall, she has to be more careful. But just keep in mind, if you're playing Zenyatta, Tracer is on the enemy team, Tracer's coming for you. She's gonna give it to you. Go on, give it to you. Sorry, I'm having far too much fun doing this. And see, I was a boy when I was growing up. I didn't play with dolls. So now I get to do it on a stream in front of like 140 people. Feels good, man. How do you play Tracer in defense in payload maps? Personally, I don't, is the answer. I would say just try and find points where they're going to cluster up, where they're trying to push on the back of the payload and try and just hit that with a pulse bomb as frequently as you can. Make the supports uncomfortable, make the backline uncomfortable. If they're trying to push past the payload, make sure you're punishing that and putting pressure on whatever's trying to push the payload. Keep it contested. Make sure all that space that they're buying isn't doing anything because Tracer's there stopping the payload moving, and the supports or the 3 people or 2 people trying to push the payload can't get rid of her. And so any ground they could be gaining is instantly nullified. Like, try and find clever ways to do things like that. Supports will generally gravitate towards the back of the payload because it's a big source of cover for them to hide behind. It also provides them with some healing, so it's an easy time for you to also get some a pulse bomb. If the payload is moving through a choke point, it often narrows down pathways. Again, good pulse bomb, good left click angles for you to get a lot of damage out. How would you manage your blinks? How do you use them during a fight? Always, 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 always just use 1 at a time. If you're using 2 ever, you are using it to get the fuck out as fast as you can and finishing the fight, or you are using it to go for a big pulse bomb or something like that. The number of times you should be using 2 blinks is very, very, very small. Blink is your, like, recall is your safety net. Blink is your lifeline. You have 150 hit points. The second you are out of blinks, you are done. It's over. So rationing those out is important, and making sure that you are blinking, shooting, blinking, shooting, blinking, shooting. Just be aware that if you start falling into a super predictable rhythm, or shoot for 1 second, blink while reloading, shoot for 1 second, blink, people will start to get into it. People will start to notice it, but you can generally do quite a lot sort of around just using 1 blink. If you're using 2, you fucked up already. Like, you shouldn't be using that many just to evade some damage unless you are actively withdrawing from the fight. Then you're out seen, then you're out of there. Oh, whoop. So yeah, just be very careful about doing that. Also, like I said in the previous Coaching the Mendies, don't blink into the enemy team, like into the center of the enemy team, because then they're all going to be stood around her, and it's all, and she can't survive that. So it feels bad. If you're shooting something large, e.g. Roadhog, should you aim for the head or more damage shot, or should you shoot the belly so all the shots would hit? If you're shooting a Roadhog, especially like one huffing, aim for about the chin, because then you get all the shots hitting and you get most of the headshot damage. Yeah, tanks you should be generally aiming for about the neck. Zenyatta as well, you should be aiming for the neck. Anything with a model where the head is very... This is going to sound like a very weird statement, especially to me, because I did a fucking anatomy for an entire semester. But when the head is above the neck, you should be aiming for the neck in general. Unless they have a really big head. Like Arisa, just put the fucking crosshair on a melon, because it's big enough. Winston's the same. Just put the crosshair on the melon. On targets where the head is like either a little bit more forward, a little bit more hunched down, then you should just still kind of be aiming for the chin. Like, and that will give you a nice spread around like this area. If you think about the crosshair being here, it'll give you a good spread of damage. It's just with like the bigger headed tanks, it's easier to get the headshot, so you should be aiming more for the head. And it's also just more meaningful damage. Like you can do a good 300 damage onto a Roadhog with a single clip, I believe. Yeah, you should. Yeah, you can do 300 damage. Trivia: Tracer and Reaper are the only characters that never received any change, not even in the beta. See? No poem today, I'm tired. As Tracer, you should focus more on getting kills or not dying. Some Tracers just never die, but only do superficial damage. Some Tracers dive in and get kills, but never die. So this is sort of the idea of Tracer creating space and sort of creating discomfort in the enemy team. If you're playing Tracer and you are not getting kills and you are winning, that's okay. If you're playing Tracer, not getting any kills, and you are losing, get off Tracer. Because you're clearly not causing enough issues where they are struggling, and then you're not contributing much damage either. You might just be very out of sync with the team. You know, you're going in, you're doing all this jazzy stuff, but your team's still coming out of spawn, so then it's just like 6-on-1, and then you just die. Feels really bad. So just be very careful when in situations like that. In general, it is okay to trade Tracer for a support. Like, if you can kill the Mercy and you go down as a result, that's pretty much okay. Just be very careful. Like, don't... Just be careful. There's very, very few instances where Tracer should be, like, thinking, oh, I'm sacrificing myself in this situation. You can generally get out of most fights that aren't going to go well for you, so you should be surviving most things. It's just if you are surviving most things to the degree where you are literally not killing anything and your team is not winning, you aren't on Tracer. Like, you aren't doing well on Tracer. Good pick for a support for Tracer. Zenyatta, yep, Zenyatta's fine. Zarya is just good for terms of the combo potential. Graviton Bomb is just amazing, the Big Bang, and then you have the bigger bang with D.Va and Zarya. But the Big Bang is just really, really strong. Like, Tracer can build up an ultimate in no time at all, so whenever Zarya has Graviton, Zarya can afford to wait the 20 seconds it takes Tracer to build a new Pulse Bomb, and then she can just go and throw it in, no fucking problem. Tracer, really good with Zarya. Zenyatta, very good. Lucio, very good with Tracer. He just provides you with that extra bit of healing, so you don't have to recall quite as much. You can just blink around, and even though you're like jumping all over the place, you're still getting healing. It might change slightly with the coming Lucio changes, but even with the new Lucio, I think you could still blink into him and blink into his circle and get the healing. I went a bit German there, and gets the healing, and then you can blink out and go and do whatever you want. Like, you should still be able to get a lot of healing. The issue with, like, Ana and stuff is that Ana doesn't really want to be trying to shoot Tracer because she's zipping all over the place, and so hitting a Tracer is a pain in the frickin' ass, because she's, you know, she's a hyperactive kid, just, yes, love, like, she's doing all this shit. So yeah, I generally, when I'm trying to heal a Tracer, I just whack a grenade in wherever she remotely is, and just go, sort yourself out now, love. That's sort of my thoughts on supporting Tracer. Ana Tracer doesn't really synergize well anyway, because Nano Boost doesn't help Tracer all that much. It's actually kind of interesting. Like, I've tried it a couple of times, and Nano Boosting Tracer, it's very much a last resort. The survivability change doesn't make that much of a difference to Tracer, to be honest. She still tends to die if you can't put healing on her, and the extra damage she puts out isn't reliable enough or consistent enough where she's also trying to evade everyone focusing on her, that she can actually get killed. So I found it to be lackluster. Mercy, again, also not great. Just because Mercy, like, there's not enough for Mercy to heal, basically. Like, look at her. Look at her, she's tiny. But Reinhardt was never changed either. I think Reinhardt's had maybe one or two. Earthshadow's definitely been changed. Earthshadow's been changed a few times. What's a good time to switch to Tracer? Tracer's generally a hero that you start out on, so it's rare that you'll swap onto her. If you just feel like you can make all the difference in the world on Tracer, like if they're running a very clumped team comp as well, that isn't reliant fully on tanks, and somehow, I don't know, it's one of those instances where, like, there is no good, clear indication that Tracer is the solution here. Basically, you just have to know that my Tracer is good enough where, you know, they're running this hero mixture. I can probably play against this on Tracer without too much issue. Like, they're not running McCree, they're not running Winston, they're not running this, that, and the other. I can probably play around their team lineup and get a lot of value, and therefore I will play Tracer. If they're running Pharah as well, best to avoid it, especially Pharmacy, just because one rocket is nightmare stuff for you, so you can't afford to sort of run around against that. You will be completely ineffective against them. There's no way you're out DPSing the Pharah. You're out DPSing the heals on the Pharah when she's at ranges that she should be fighting at, and you aren't going to get the Mercy because Mercy's just going to go cuddle up to Pharah in the sky, and Tracer kind of shit shooting into the air. Tracer sitting there, looks like she's trying to meditate like Zenyatta, or she needs to pee. Not sure. Let's see. Kappa Pride. How to get rid of Tracer as Hog, how to hook. Wait until she's blinked and then hook. She's waiting for you to hook to blink, so if you run up to her and you just left click her, she just goes, oh wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. She's waiting for you to hook. And if you are going to throw a hook, then try and lure her into places where it's a small environment. In general, just like, don't give her free charge, but try not to put yourself in positions where she can just afford to zip all around you and deal free damage. But then just make it scary for her to do it. Like, try and punish her when she blinks. You just put a hook where she's going to. Put right clicks on her. If you land a right click on her, she goes down very quickly. Stuff like that. Just make it very difficult for her to get away with it for free. If you're playing Roadhog and there's a Tracer on the enemy team, she is going to harass the shit out of you because you're free pulse bombs. Well, not free, but just keep in mind as well that any damage she's doing to you, you can heal it up no problem. Your healers can probably heal it up no problem. She isn't really a threat to you. She's a threat to the rest of your team. So as long as she's just annoying for you, you can probably handle it. If she puts a pulse bomb on you, just huff your paint can and you'll be fine. Like, no problem there. Target priority for Tracer. Zenyatta, prior number 1. Supports in general, you just want to make him really uncomfortable. If the supports really start turtling up instead of getting very, very difficult to deal with, then you can start putting pressure on their Reinhardt, for example. Reinhardt, you don't want to put too much pressure. Like, Reinhardt is something that you should be using as almost like a backing line, like a, you know, it's an undercurrent to everything where you're just nipping at the Reinhardt every now and then to make him uncomfortable. Because especially if you aren't playing at like Masters, Grandmasters level, Reinhardts will probably get very, very uncomfortable if Tracer is constantly shooting at them. So then they start making mistakes. They start doing stupid things. Your team can hopefully capitalize on the back of that and you can cause some real problems. Just don't over-focus on the Reinhardt because it's difficult to get through the 200 armor, and if they're healing him, they will be able to keep him alive through pretty much all the damage that you're doing. So then you swap onto something else once he starts getting healed up a lot. If he does start dropping low, you can actually go for the kill once his armor is stripped away. Then you can actually kill him reasonably quickly. Who has the longer leg body ratio, Tracer or Widow? Widow, definitely. Don't get me wrong, Tracer, like... Tracer is pretty leggy, like, pretty crazy. Like, I think she's about 2/3 leg. Oh. But Widow is fucking ridiculous. Like... Widow is like a robot that's been slotted into 2 massive pillars that are her freaking thighs. It's crazy. So I think it is Widow. Like, if you think about where Tracer's hips are, they're like down here. So it's not quite as much, I think, as Widowmaker's. Although it's not too far off, considering she has very, very long sort of shins. Let's bring it back. Important questions being answered. Well, let's bring Tracer back in. How not to get addicted to watching anime again? I watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1 and 2. Wrong person to ask, I've never been into anime much. I've watched about 3. One of them being Kill la Kill, which I really enjoyed. One of them being... I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was growing up because I was the perfect age for that. And I watched a very fan-servicey anime once called Grenadier because it was fucking hilarious. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? And I watched it and it was like, Jesus Christ. What is this? Go and look it up if you haven't. It's one of the stupidest things you'll ever see, and it's hilarious. I usually play Tracer in King of the Hill maps around 3.4k, and I have a tough time getting to the enemy backline because the enemy's tanks and DPS hero blocks me from getting there, and the support are usually on alone. Any tips? If they're all turtling up super hard, then that's when you start swapping more onto the tanks and trying to build pulse bombs faster, because then when they start clumping up, then you can punish them more as a result of them being clumped. If they're really super protective of the supports, and the supports also, if it's like Mercy Lucio, you might want to consider swapping, because Mercy Lucio are very evasive, very hard to finish off, very hard to get rid of, so yeah. You're not gonna kill them. So might be better to swap onto something else. Again, this is where like Dragon Blade could be way more effective, because you're more likely to kill the Mercy with a Dragon Blade than you are with a Pulse Bomb, unless you're extremely good, and even then, it's difficult, like against a good Mercy. If they're both on equal footing, Tracer and Mercy, it's hard to get the stick on her. So yeah, be careful, be careful. But yeah, if they are grouping up, if they are pulling like DPS resources to chase you around, that's when you also start prioritizing not dying, and you hope that your main source of DPS is coming in and doing a lot of work. Or you're winning like the barrier battle, for example, against their Reinhardt, because they're pulling stuff off to deal with you. That's about it. Is it someone's birthday? Happy birthday, if it's someone's birthday, I don't know. I thought I saw happy birthday, but no, it wasn't happy birthday. It was Help Me Poppy Senpai, and for some reason I read that as happy birthday Senpai. It's because I'm half reading stuff. Tracer specific settings, I don't really have any, I think. I don't think there are any, really. Options, controls, all heroes, Tracer. Yeah, you can see there's nothing special on my Tracer. Some people talk about, I mean, you should have a light health bars on. It should be up in general. I use short crosshairs. It's to you, personal preference. Bloom is off for me because Bloom is pretty much instant, so what's the point? Some people use different sensitivities on different heroes. I don't recommend it. I'm not a big fan of it. I'd rather just have everything the same across the board, so I just use that. Otherwise, I don't use anything specific. This is just for controllers, so yeah. There's nothing really special with Tracer. I know some people also use Shift for Pulse Bomb instead of Blink, or you can use like right click for Pulse Bomb. I actually want to experiment with that. Actually, let's try that. So, because there is no secondary fire on Tracer, this is Tracer specific. Weapons and abilities, ability 3. It'd just be for Tracer. Okay. So what that means is that you aren't using like, you aren't worrying about pressing something else. So, or you're just like using it as you're normally aiming. Some people might find that easier. I don't know. I know a lot of people, like Tavik talked about that and found it easier. And he's a lot better at the game than I am, so I'm not going to disagree with him. If he says it's a good idea, it's probably a good idea. There we go, sitting around. Get back to the questions. Let's do 2 more, let's say, and then we could probably wrap it up. Grace had 100 HP in early builds, like really, really early. I don't think she did. I think she's always had 150. Because that would definitely be pre-beta. I mean, you gotta remember, I did some of the first videos. I put my Tracer video out, my Tracer info video, out about a week after the game was announced. And I think Tracer then had 200 hit points, 150 hit points. It would have to be like builds before they showed anyone anything, which he had 200. Ult plus Pulse Bomb, bit tricky to get off. Honestly, I'd say that the jarring movement of Halt wouldn't help with the Pulse Bomb. It'd actually be easier after Halt has landed, because people have a bit of a slowdown after that, and so then you could probably go for something opportunistic. No Biz employee that says, yeah, 200. Yeah, it's 200 hit points is before anything in public. Okay, let's bring Tracer back. Should you change Pulse Bomb to a hotkey to avoid exploding the spunky colony? There you go, there's the rhymes. Well, we just talked about that, so hey. Hey. Bring Tracer back. Let's do one more question, because I just answered that one earlier. The people are busy talking. Do you plan to get the Widow statue? I've already pre-ordered. Pre-ordered it the night that it was announced. Kill or kill, 10 out of 10, there we go. Have they changed the 2CP rules regarding tag I win? I actually haven't checked. I haven't checked. You missed my question again? Nope, I didn't miss your question. Lol. Let's see. Do you feel Leon Oxton is a fair and accurate depiction of the British populace, or is she not sexy enough? She's too sexy for the British populace. Jesus, are you kidding me? For fuck's sake. Look at us. Look at us. We're not a handsome race of people, ladies and gents. And she's also far too cheery for a Londoner. Londoners, when they sound as happy as Tracer does, are usually about to murder someone. Now, alright mate, how's it going? How's it going, my friend? How's things, yeah? Hopefully everything's alright with you. Come with me down in this dark alley, mate. Pip, pip, and then you're dead and get shanked in the London fucking dreary alleyway. Like, British people shouldn't be this happy. This is fucking terrifying. So no. Possible one for TP Shield Gen? Yes. Absolute worth. Absolutely worth. That's actually a good question for the shield. So there we go. Yeah, that about does it. Thank you guys for watching to the end. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to scroll all the way down, although I think we managed to get to the end. What question would you like to ask, Josh? I'm here to answer them. Anyway. Right. That's it for Coaching the Many with Tracer. If you do want to send in footage, you can send it in to oemreviews@gmail.com. Put the hero name and the rank that you're playing at into the title. And it's all in the description below anyway. Put in if you're a Twitch sub or not. I think both of the games we looked at tonight aren't Twitch subs, so hey, you know, it's not always Twitch subs, but it usually is going to be a Twitch sub. If they send something in and I'm comparing 2 bits of footage that are very similar, I will pick the Twitch sub just because it's my way of giving back to them. It's my way of saying thank you. And yeah. Is there anything else? Anything else? Do feel free to come by and watch it live. 10 PM GMT. Well, no, 10 PM BST now. British summertime. Twitch.tv/ESL_OneAmongstMany. It's better live than it is on YouTube. Trust me, the community's great. People are wonderful to watch. Talk to and do all that stuff, and call me out on drawing penises and stuff when I'm not drawing penises, but whatever. Chat seems to have fun doing that, so hey, Friday and Saturday, come by, have fun. Hope to see you there. Otherwise, thanks for watching to the end. Toodles.